Big John joins us now on MMA Junkie Radio. What's up, Big John? How you doing?
Good, George. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Thanks for joining us here on the MMA Junkie Radio Show. It's always a pleasure to have you on, sir. John, I wanted to ask you, for a fight like Fedor and Frank Mir, I mean, you got to be pumped up for this fight. Let's just start with as a fan, and I know as a commentator, but I wanted to ask you, is there certain fights that, because we wanted to see these guys do it for such a long time, you wouldn't exactly be pissed off if you were right in the middle of the action just as a referee, even if it was just for this one fight?
You know what? Any way that I got to see this fight, I would be happy. Because if I was able to referee it, that would be awesome. If I'm able to call it as a commentator, that's awesome. If I'm just able to watch it as a fan, it's a fight that I've wanted to see for, you're looking at over 10 years here, George. When Fedor won the Pride heavyweight title from Nogueira back in 2003. Mm-hmm. And then Frank Mir won the UFC title, breaking Tim Sylvia's arm in 2004. And it was, look at back then, no matter what anyone wants to say, if you remember it and you were really there, Pride was saying that it was the best and had the best fighters, and a lot of people thought that, and a lot of people put, Frank Mir down as the champion and said Fedor would crush him. And it was always a fight that you would want to see. And now finally we get to see it, man. I'm just excited that I get to be part of it.
Yeah, these guys, I've been really, really excited watching, the first and second installments there of the previews that they've been doing with both guys. Fedor going old school like he always does, and I think it's called Stario School in Russia. And then Frank Mir, him doing his work here in Las Vegas, bred and born. I still can't get over Fedor and the power and the hand speed that this guy has, even into his 40s. He just doesn't look like he's got like the conventional boxer stance or build or anything. He's got a little bit of a dad bod going. But man, can this guy just?
That's one of the best parts about him.
Exactly. But man, can this? I don't know what it is. If it comes from his shoulders, his hips, his hands. I mean, he really does have some incredible speed behind him.
He does, and I'm telling you, look at back when he fought Tim Sylvia in the Affliction, and he won at the time that was called the WAMA heavyweight title, and it was supposedly a sanctioning body that would bring fighters from different promotions together to hopefully find out who was the one true champion. But back after that fight, I worked out with him, and I had always had this thought of like God, he's got to have some brute strength to him, just the way he moves and stuff. And I'm telling you, the one thing that I got out of that workout session was he was fast, and he was hard to stay with because he was so fast. And he makes you, as a heavyweight, he makes you work at a pace that can become uncomfortable because you're not used to working with that speed. And his hand speed is still, to this day, he still has his hand speed. When he decides to explode, he comes at you, and he has power. He can hit. His right hand can put anybody out. He sets people up with his left hand, but his right hand's what he's looking to land. And he's very good. He's exactly like Roy Nelson. He's very good at landing it right on your left ear and making everything just start to wobble. And Frank Mir's been hit by that exact punch in his last fight against Mark Hunt. That's the punch that put, Frank out. And it's not a punch that puts you out as far as you lose consciousness, but it's a punch that puts you out where you can't move your body. Mm-hmm. And he's got the power to do that.
How impressed are you with Frank Mir? I'm sure you've had to do lots of study on him. Referencing the Tim Sylvia fight, he didn't have hands like he does now. Now he's got really, really good boxing, and he's confident in his hands. I think that's something that a lot of fighters, they develop good hands, but it's not until you're confident in using them that you really become dangerous. And the way you become confident is by being successful, and going out there and doing like what he did against Todd Duffy, for example. I mean, that those guys were in the middle. I was in San Diego for that one, and poof, that sounded like those guys were cracking each other with baseball bats. But can you talk about the development of Frank Mir over the years and becoming pretty dangerous with the hands too?
Absolutely. Frank came from, his dad was American Kempo practitioner, and that's where Frank came from. And so he was this guy that had, Kempo karate background, wrestled in high school and then went and started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but he became so proficient with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that's all anyone ever knew him for. And in his fights, you know, he was always looking for that takedown and looking to get the fight to the end because that was his strength, and you couldn't blame him. But the fight that was the changing fight for Frank Mir was when he fought Nogueira the first time. And that was for the UFC interim heavyweight title. And he lit Nogueira up in that fight. And he hit him with all kinds of check hooks and a check uppercut that we'll talk, you know, that you can talk about the way he hit him with a lead uppercut. It was weird, and it was really well done, and his footwork was great. And you go, who the hell is this guy all of a sudden coming out and doing what he's doing to a guy who, in the stand-up, Nogueira has always done very well with very accomplished strikers. And Frank has matured. You know, you got to look back when he won the title. He was a young man, and no matter what, it's hard when you're a young man and everyone's telling you that you're the best to think, I have to work harder. I have to improve. You think, hell, I'm the best. Why do I have to? I don't have to work hard. And I think with Frank, it took him a little bit of time to realize, you know what? I always need to get better. I always need to improve. I need to add more tools to the tool chest. And that's what he has done over the years. Frank Mir is one of the most intellectual fighters there is. He's very astute at the intricacies of the game of what's going to set you up to be successful. If I place my foot here and he likes to turn at this angle, then I can come to this. And he's very intellectual at looking at how do I set my opponent up for him to walk into what I want to do. And that's the Frank Mir that you have now. He's a much different fighter today than he was back when he was the UFC champion and beating Tim Sylvia. And he's a much more dangerous fighter everywhere. He's dangerous on his feet. He has power. He can switch. You know, he's a southpaw, but he switches to orthodox stance, and he's got power in both hands. And then if you get to the ground with him and he's on top of you, you got problems. I'm just telling you right now, there's no fighter out there, none, that have done the damage and submissions that Frank Mir has done to people.